Hello and welcome to the City of Good Sports podcast. I'm your host, Richard Miller, and today we have a very special episode because it's playoff time. This Sunday, the Bills will take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville at 1 p.m. We're the 6th seed. They're the 3 seed. There's a lot to look forward to, but before I get into that, the Bills just wrapped up their final regular season game of the year and their last ever regular season game at Highmark Stadium. Highmark Stadium, also known as New Era Field, Ralph Wilson Stadium, Rich Stadium over the year, has been the home of the Buffalo Bills since 1973. And now, barring an AFC Championship match with the Los Angeles Chargers, it will be the last ever time that we've played in that stadium prior to the Bills opening their new $2.1 billion stadium right across the street. And it was an emotional send-off, and it was a rightful send-off. The Bills won 35-8. The game opened with Josh Allen taking the first snap, and this was really for no other purpose than him keeping his streak. This was his 127th consecutive start, which is the longest among active QBs. James Cook also played the first couple of snaps, and this was for no purpose other than to get him the rushing title, which he achieved. He had 15 rushing yards in this game, but for the season, he is the rushing king, the rushing leader. With 1,621 yards on the year, James Cook is first among all running backs in the NFL. So let's clap it up for James Cook. Certainly worth that extension. But when the Bills took their starters out, they didn't seem to lose a beat. They won this game 35-8. Mitch Trubisky certainly played well. This was quite an audition for a starting role, perhaps a bridge role somewhere. He went 22 of 29 for 259 yards and 4 touchdowns. Ray Davis also got some shine this game, 174 yards total, 7.2 yards per carry, as well as a touchdown. So the bench unit played incredible today. A little bit worrisome because we wonder if other teams are set to take them off of our hands. But nonetheless, some great performances by both Trubisky and Ray Davis. And this was just an all-out ass-kicking. The Jets are obviously tanking. They're going for a high pick. They want to potentially draft a quarterback in this year's draft. And this game was also special because it marked the return of the red helmets. Were the Bills' primary helmets from 1984 all the way to 2010. And of course, they're most associated with the 90s Super Bowl era. And they certainly look sharp in them. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were to bring these back at least as a regular alternate jersey. But it was certainly the proper jersey they could have worn in their final game at Highmark. There are 2 final things I want to cover from this Jets game before we move on to our wildcard matchup preview against the Jaguars. The first being incentives. Dawson Knox and Ty Johnson both reached their incentives for the season in this game. So they will be getting paid some nice bonuses. So congratulations to both those guys. And the second thing is injuries. Maxwell Hairston pretty much played this entire game, and it costs the Bills big time because now he has a right ankle injury and has been officially ruled out for the Jaguars game. There was no reason in a blowout game like this for McDermott to be playing him the entire game, and now we have some real issues with our secondary. So this is something that we should certainly keep note on, but it's honestly taking a back seat to the fact that Matt Prater re-aggravated his quad in this injury, and the Bills pretty much played this entire game without a kicker, and he's considered day-to-day and questionable, but there's a good chance that we might not have a kicker for the Jaguars game, and it's about time that the Bills at least try out or sign somebody because it's very worrisome. We saw what happened in the Steelers-Ravens game, the final game of the season. Key misses by both Boswell and ultimately Tyler Loop, which cost the Ravens the division and brought the Steelers into the playoffs. So kicking matters quite a lot. And to have no kicker at all is extremely worrisome. Just to clear everything up, I thought I would share the injury report. So Matt Prater is currently questionable along with Daquan Jones, Ty Johnson, Joey Bosa, and Jordan Poyer. Maxwell Hairston is officially out, and the people on IR are the usual guys: Landon Jackson, Dorian Strong, DeMar Hamlin, Ed Oliver, Taylor Rapp, Tyler Bass, Curtis Samuel, Michael Hoyt, Dwayne Carter, and Chase Lund. So with Jordan Poyer questionable and Maxwell Hairston out, it is likely that Dane Jackson will get called up from the practice squad, and there's a good chance that he will play a good amount of minutes in this wild card game. How he performs is really up in the air. You're not the most confident in him, but he could be serviceable if need be. Cam Lewis is set to be the starting second safety if Poyer is officially out for this game, with Franklin and Hancock most likely being rotational pieces. Currently, the depth chart lists Trey White and Benford as the starters, with Taron Johnson being healthy and penciled in his usual third back spot. Matt Prater is the one that's the most worrisome because, as I mentioned, Tyler Bass is on the IR. He's not playing. And if Matt Prater is questionable, there's a chance we could go in with no kicker or Ray Davis kicking. So among the current free agent kickers are Younghoe Koo, Rodrigo Blankenship, Austin Seibert, Dustin Hopkins, Greg Joseph, and if you really want to take that risk, Justin Tucker. He currently is off of his suspension. He recently worked out with the Saints before they went with another guy. But I doubt they're going to make that move with the character concerns that the guy holds and his scandal with the massage parlors. You don't feel confident at all about their kicking situation. Honestly, their special teams as a whole this season has been terrible. Just been bit with the injury bug, and it's been the theme all season. However, even if they do announce that Prater is good to go and good to play, he's not going to be 100%. A quad injury is something that is extremely limiting for a kicker. It limits your full range of motion. It limits your knee flexion, especially for someone who's 41 years old like Prater. So you have to wonder, anything beyond like extra point range is really up in the air whether or not he makes it. You honestly have those questions even if he is fully healthy. You definitely have those questions with Bass. But it's something you really need to keep an eye on. And if it were to come down to it and we need a 51 plus yarder for the game, and we have this 40-year-old kicker with a quad injury, you don't feel confident at all about it. And just to rub it in, the Jacksonville Jaguars have one of the best long-range kickers in the league. They have a guy that just made a 67-yard field goal. The special teams situation, especially the kicker situation, is one of the worst in the NFL. It's really bad. And you have to wonder, will they just go for two again? But now, where teams like the Jaguars would kick a field goal, that's punting range for us. The field is shortened. For the first time in the City of Good Sports history, I'm being interrupted by a live roster update. You know how we talked about Matt Prater and the Bills' kicking issues? Well, they've just signed kicker Matthew Wright to the practice squad. This guy's in his 7th year out of UCF, and he is a journeyman, to put it lightly. He started on the Tampa Bay Vipers of the XFL, then he went to the Steelers, then the Jaguars, then the Chiefs, then back to the Steelers, back to the Chiefs, then the Panthers, then the 49ers, back to the Chiefs, Titans, Commanders, Texans, and now Bills. And this is not even counting the practice squads, which he's also been on the Falcons, the Lions, and the Patriots. I know this guy has a ton of flight points. He practically lives in hotels. Like, I don't know how you could live like that. He doesn't have a home base. But I'm surprised he's played for so many teams, because he is 60 of 68 for his career on field goals, which is 88%. That's not bad. And he has a long of 59 yards. As far as extra points, he's 45 of 47, so a little under 96%. And there's a good chance he will be the Bills' starting kicker against the Jaguars this Sunday. I don't know what to make of him. This is my first time hearing about this guy, but I probably should have heard about him. He's been everywhere. So, on the topic of kicking in the game against the Jaguars, I mentioned that their kicker just made a 67-yard field goal, but they have a superstar at the kicking position in Cam Little. That 67-yard field goal was the second longest in NFL history to 68 yards, which was also made by Cam Little. This guy is 8 of 10 from 50 plus this year and is 90% accuracy for his 2-year career. So whereas the field is significantly shrunk for us, it's widened for the Jaguars. They are likely to come up with points if they get pretty much anywhere beyond the 50-yard line. That's just how good their kicker is. Another thing about the Jaguars, in general, they are red hot. They're 13-4 on the year, and they've won 8 straight. So we are going into a team that is on an extreme high right now, and you think they don't have a target on us because, believe it or not, Josh Allen, despite being the 6th seed, has developed such a reputation to the point where people are just expecting the Bills to come out of the AFC. I'm already seeing narratives that if he doesn't come out of the AFC with Mahomes out, with Lamar out, with Burrow out, then it's nothing short of a failure. And I think the Jaguars also see that, and they want to make sure that Josh Allen fails. Now, one thing of note, the Bills have the number 1 rush offense in the league. As we mentioned, we have the rushing leader in James Cook, but we also have one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the league in Josh Allen, and we have the number 1 rush offense. The Jaguars have the number 1 rush defense. They only allow 85.6 rushing yards per game, which is the best in the NFL. They are led by an incredible defensive coordinator in Anthony Campanile. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. Liam Cohen, in his first year as head coach, is also an incredible coach. Their D-line is led by the other Josh Allen, Josh Hines Allen, who had a huge game against us a couple years ago, if you remember that. Also, number 1 overall pick from a couple years ago, Trayvon Walker, and Devon Hamilton and veteran Eric Armstead at the D-tackle position. Another major anchor in their defense is Devin Lloyd, who's having an incredible season. He's 2nd in the league with 5 interceptions, and he's also tied with Jaguars safety Antonio Johnson, who also has 5 interceptions. Devin Lloyd is a very versatile running back. He's good against the run. He's good against the pass. He's likely an all-pro this year. Going to the offensive side, the Bills have the number 1 pass defense in the league in terms of yards allowed, but we are 28th in rush defense. So let's talk about Trevor Lawrence first. Trevor Lawrence is 6th in the NFL with a little over 4,000 passing yards. 4,007. He is 5th in terms of total touchdowns with 29, but he also has the 5th most interceptions with 12. One thing to note, though, that during this winning streak, particularly in the last 6 games, Trevor Lawrence has been quite literally unstoppable. Following a 3-interception performance against the Cardinals, Trevor Lawrence has really cleaned it up. And in their past 6 games, he's had 15 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Now, you may remember Brian Thomas Jr., who had an all-time great rookie season. He's kind of fallen off a little bit this year, but that being said, he still has more receiving yards than anyone on the Bills. In fact, Jacksonville has 3 receivers that are all in the top 50 in receiving yards and all have more receiving yards than the Bills' leading wide receiver, Khalil Shakir. This is Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, and as mentioned, Brian Thomas Jr. Parker Washington is someone that's specifically of note because he kind of came out of nowhere. He's a 6th-round pick. He's in his 3rd year. And over the past 3 games, he's averaging 114 receiving yards. So he's definitely coming clutch for a lot of people in fantasy, but it's bad news for us because he's red hot. But I'm sure knowing the Bills' weakness is the run defense, they're going to run the ball a lot. And coincidentally, Travis Etienne is a pretty good running back. He's 11th in the NFL with 1,107 rushing yards, as well as 13 TDs, and he's someone who you will hear his name called a lot. They are definitely going to try to exploit the Bills' rushing defense. They're going to try to exploit Trey White and Dane Jackson and whoever plays opposite Benford, because as mentioned, they have 3 very competent receivers. So this is not an easy game. It's certainly nothing to brush off, because the Jaguars are a really good team and they're really hot right now. Where the Bills have the advantage is they're a little more seasoned and a little more prepared for the moment. Josh Allen has been to the playoffs 6 times as opposed to Trevor Lawrence, who has only been once. A lot of players on this Jaguars team have never seen the playoffs. It's Liam Cohen's first year as a head coach, and it's the first year of this particular Jaguars unit, whereas the Bills team of this year is quite similar to the Bills teams that have already been in the playoffs before. So that is where the advantage is. And I will say, as good as Trevor Lawrence has been playing, you trust Josh Allen a little bit more. I still think Josh Allen is better than Trevor Lawrence. I don't want to hear it. This is the best quarterback in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, yeah, he might be top 5, top 10. He's not 1. And even top 5, top 10 is a little bit of a stretch for him, because this is his first stretch where we've really seen superstar potential from him. There's still a lot of flaws in his game. Now, we're going to pivot to something a little more on the superstitious side. A pretty concerning stat is that the Bills have not won a road playoff game since 1993. Obviously, Josh Allen is yet to win a road playoff win in his career. That's mostly a Chiefs stat, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. The last time the Bills and the Jaguars played was when the Bills overcame the drought and they lost the Jaguars on the road. That was Tyrod Taylor versus Blake Bortles. It's a little different now. But it would be cool to avenge the Tyrod Taylor team. And I wonder if McDermott thinks about that, because that's also McDermott's first ever playoff series as a head coach, was against the Jaguars in Jacksonville. So he has a chance to avenge that. I wonder if that's on the back of his mind. I'm sure it is. And we are also yet to wonder, if the Bills were to have a first-round exit this year, would that be it for Sean McDermott? Harbaugh was just relieved from the Ravens after 19 years of coaching. I mean, Stefanski was just fired by the Browns. Or is he so interlinked with Brandon Beane and Josh Allen where the results don't really matter? But we don't want to think negatively. Obviously, you have the road playoff loss. The Bills pretty much have to win entirely on the road. Again, barring an AFC championship with the Chargers, but that's the only scenario in which we play at home. So both the wild card and divisional are definitely going to be on the road. So there is quite an uphill battle, but like I said, we have the best quarterback, and there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to make the Super Bowl if we're being farsighted. If we're being nearsighted, we have a very difficult game against the Jaguars coming up that we should not discount, and we should not count that team out, because as I mentioned, there are a lot of positives going on for Jacksonville right now. So now that I've covered all their strengths, here are the ways I feel like the Bills could exploit the Jaguars defense and win this game. So starting off, I feel like the Bills should have a very good pulse on the Jags defense, because there are similarities to the defenses we've ran both this year and in years past, in the sense that it is very nickel heavy. They play primarily a little under 60% in nickel. They play at a zone coverage rate of 73.1%. We play in a lot of zone coverage. They're very weak against the tight end. We're weak against the tight end. They've allowed 1,004 yards total to tight ends this year. So get the ball in the hands of Knox and Kincaid. And they are very, again, this is a similarity to the Bills. Not as much this year, but definitely in years past, they are what you would call a turnover-centric defense. They are very opportunistic. They like to capitalize on interceptions and turnovers, but they are very susceptible to big plays. They've allowed 5 300 passing yard games this season, which is among the worst in the NFL. Josh Allen, as we know, could very well throw for over 300 yards. It sounds easier said than done, but the key is to just simply not turn the ball over. That's how this Jags defense gets going. You have to find the gaps, you have to make all the correct reads, but this defense is not as scary as they lead on. Even with the run defense, which is one of the best run defenses in the NFL, they are allowing 4.2 yards per carry in the inside zone. James Cook, as we know, is the rushing leader. He's good in inside zone runs. So I expect them to get James Cook going. Now, on the defensive end, you have to make sure you neutralize their run game because that is going to be what they try to exploit. Again, it's a lot easier said than done. But if you take Etienne out of the game, then you're forcing them to play through Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has been on a tear these past 6 weeks, but you have to imagine that interception is calling to him like the Green Goblin mask. He's almost been too careful since that Cardinals game. He's been too composed. And beyond the run game, I also believe to start the game, Liam Cohen is going to design some boots, some screens, some short curl routes, some check downs, some short wheel routes, halfback tosses for Trevor Lawrence to get him into the flow of the game, to kind of calm him down. But you know he has that strong arm and that big play ability. So if he's getting too comfortable, it's something we might be able to take advantage of because Trevor Lawrence obviously has improved in recent weeks. We've seen how he was able to carve out that Broncos defense, which is one of the best in the NFL, but he still struggles against zone coverage and disguise coverages. D'Amico Ryans is someone who has done a really good job game planning against the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. I believe we should take him out of that playbook. Obviously, we don't have the personnel that the Texans have, but zone coverage is going to be our friend in this scenario. I think they're going to try to get Brenton Strange involved. They're going to target our kind of undersized linebackers. But with Trevor Lawrence's arm strength and the verticality and speed of Jacksonville receivers, it's almost inevitable that at least once this game, you'll see Lawrence launch that ball. It's what he likes doing the best. It hurts not having the speed of Hairston out there, but I truly do trust our coverage, even without Hairston, to neutralize Trevor's big play ability. And when we get into that zone coverage, which he has struggled against, there is always that possibility of an interception. Another kind of superficial, superstitious thing going on along with the Bills' losing streak that's in our favor is the fact that there may be some biased refereeing in this game, but it's in our favor. The ref is supposed to be Brad Allen. Apparently, the Bills have won the last 6 games under Brad Allen. Maybe he likes what Josh Allen is doing for the Allen community. I'm not sure. And the Jaguars are 6-8 with him refereeing. But regardless, I'm not going to resort to shameful refereeing and using that as a beacon of hope. Because at the end of the day, I really know what it's like to be on the opposite end of poor officiating. And I don't buy into this until I really see it play out. A lot of this stuff is just speculation. You don't really know until you see it play out. My overall projection in this game, I'm going to give the Jaguars 3 field goals because I know how good that kicker is, where sometimes all it takes is like 2 first downs. They might even get 4 field goals. I'm going to give them 2 touchdowns, so that gives them 27 points. With our kicker, I'm going to give us 1 field goal. I think we might miss one. And you know what? I'm going to give us a missed extra point. Sorry, but I am going to give us 4 touchdowns, which puts it at a hard-fought 30-27 Bills win. That's what I'm calling it right now. I could be wrong, but that's my projection. In fact, I'm going to go a little further here. I have Allen marked down at 29 of 40 with 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, along with 12 carries for 44 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. I have Cook at 22 carries for 75 yards, which is a little over 3.4, as well as 1 TD. And I have our leading receiver as Dalton Kincaid. Lawrence, I'm going to project at 22 for 36 for 225 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception to Cole Bishop. I also have him at 10 carries for 33 rushing yards. Etienne, I have 26 carries for 97 yards, which is around 3.7, and 1 TD for him. And I have their leading receiver as Parker Washington. So this is going to be a hard-fought, kind of high-scoring game. And the more high-scoring it is, I think it's honestly in the Bills' advantage. I think the Jaguars would honestly prefer to play a defensive game. And I'm looking forward to this game. I'm nervous, but I'm ready. And with all that being said, that concludes this episode of the City of Good Sports. Be good, do good. God bless. Go Bills. And it's playoff time. This Super Bowl is ours for the taking. Have a great day, everyone.